Okay, hello everyone. I will make it very quick because I've just talked for 45 hours, now minutes, and I just forgot to connect the microphone, and this makes me very angry. Because that was a good video, but, well, useless now. Briefly, let's talk about the Bitcoin now and our expectations going into the next year, and break the trend, the tail, the trade time frames, and talk about the short term, and talk about the long term, and talk about the intermediate term for Bitcoin. What we expect from it, and our biggest fears and our biggest hopes on it. Once again, prefacing all of this to say that we are trying to extrapolate the current information into the future. You not always gonna get it right. That's first. The second, the further you're trying to look, meaning if you're trying to look 1 year ahead, the blurrier it gets. The probability of you getting things right is greatly diminished when you're trying to look that far away. That's why we're not trying to look more than 1 month away. 1 week, 2, 3, maybe 3 weeks, and we are currently refreshing the model. Always refreshing the model, always refreshing the signal, and then extrapolating further and further and further, and being Bayesian and being very flexible and adaptive with our views and with our process. That's regarding Bitcoin. And the next, I want to take a victory lap on Tesla. Honestly, let's just make it real quick. I said that Tesla was going to put 3 standard deviation moves to the downside, and this is essentially what is currently happening right now. Our first trade was on this day, getting long 215, 210 put spread 1 week out, and this was essentially a 1 to 10 risk reward trade, and it did essentially closed at $214, at $210 perfectly, and this brought a 210%, well, essentially 1,000% return on our risk in a span of less than a week, essentially. And right now, our biggest call was that this is the earnings. If earnings come out disappointing or even mildly disappointing, Tesla has a real potential to shit the bed right here, just completely explode to the downside. And this is what is currently happening, essentially. And we made a little money on it as well. This was brilliant. People were calling from here for a mean reversion, but they completely forgot that this represents the mean reversion, but this is a mean reversion on a tail basis. This is what it... well, this was the fate of Tesla. This was always their fate. They disappointed on every possible front, and they are just making cars that are becoming not very popular. The inventory is rising, a lot of problems on a fundamental basis, and but the multiple is still incredibly high, maybe 53% multiple, 53 multiple, something like that, and just normal. It's just completely normal, and we were trying to get long Tesla in that region, but essentially failed, and then picked up on a very quick turn and very surprising turn and flow into the negative side, very decisive flow into the negative side, and just beautiful, completely beautiful. And Tesla is going to trade at 170 probably this month. That's okay. That's fine. That's okay. And all for the last 2-3 weeks, I was saying to myself, do not underestimate how far Tesla may fall. Do not underestimate this. I'm saying 170, but, well, anything can happen. Honestly, anything can happen. Maybe 150. Would not be surprised at all, but that's fine. So this small victory lap on Tesla, and just getting back quickly into the Bitcoin. First of all, let's just delete all of this and get the clear chart. Long term. Oh no, let's... This, you see that line? That line is Monday, 22nd of April. It's either 22nd or 21st of April. I outlined the halving date. And halving historically has been a very good catalyst and a signal of a cyclical upswing in Bitcoin in around a couple of months before, a couple of months after Bitcoin began picking up cyclically from the price perspective. That all of that was happening before or after a halving date. The recent halving, the latest halving that we had was also in April, if I'm not mistaken, or in March, or in May even, but it was in spring, somewhere right here, somewhere in that region, and that's what we saw. But we cannot forget that this move came on the back also on the back of a very, very supportive macro backdrop when, U.S. government essentially printed trillions of money out of thin air, and this is what you're getting in the liquidity sensitive assets like Bitcoin. Incredible pump in the price. Right now, the outlook is quite different. From the idiosyncratic perspective, meaning the cyclicality of Bitcoin itself, now it is positive. Everything is positive for crypto and for Bitcoin because of the halving, that is. But with the introduction of this ETF, Bitcoin is getting more and more, integrated into the overall macro picture. Bitcoin is, as we've been calling, will get less and less volatile and will be more and more susceptible to the macro forces. Macro forcing meaning what's happening with the currency market, what's happening with the credit markets, what's happening with the treasury markets, stocks, and so on and so forth. But just setting that aside, we think that 2024 will be a relatively good year for risk-on assets, like liquidity-sensitive assets and the assets sensitive to the monetary debasement. And this year, we are likely to get a lot of monetary debasement. And this is just overall, from the idiosyncratic perspective, from the cyclicality of Bitcoin itself and crypto itself, from the macro perspective, it's shaping up to be a very positive year for 2024, and that is for Bitcoin. But let's talk about the flow right now. Okay, we get the direction. We think that we're gonna close. Let's say if you think that Bitcoin is gonna close at 100,000 by the end of this year, maybe go into the first quarter of the 2025. If you think that's good. How are you gonna trade it? What are you gonna do? Are you gonna buy right now? And if you're going to buy right now, are you going to be able to weather the volatility, sit through the volatility? Are you going to be able to stomach these kind of movements, these kind of retracements? Because remember, before we got this 60% upswing in Bitcoin price, we essentially stood in consolidation right now, like this, in this consolidation for 5 months. 5 months in consolidation before we got this 60% up move in Bitcoin. Will you be able to handle that? And this is not an ordinary consolidation. When Bitcoin moves, gives you plus 20% and minus 20%. So this is pretty significant, pretty big consolidation, which can really play mind games with you if you're not experienced and if you don't have the process to follow. So that's not. Don't just follow the price and follow your emotions. Follow your process, and what the process is telling you. From the tail perspective, Bitcoin is bullish. From the tail, meaning over the next 3 to 6 to 9 to 12 months, it is bullish. We know that. That is fine. Now let's get into the trend and trade perspective, meaning what's going to be happening most likely on to 1 to 3 month basis and 1 week to 1 month basis. Fractally, if you look at Bitcoin, we are currently negative from the trend perspective. We broke the trend 1 week ago. We broke the trend. This is as potent signal as we received right here. This is the same thing. I just forgot to mark this, apparently. Yeah, this is it. This was the time of... Nope. Get it back, copy, paste it. It's totally fine. We've managed to capture this move from here to here. We made our 45%, and we're completely happy with this. Right now, we're getting into the period of consolidation. Why is that? We just took out the tail resistance, meaning this level is the tail resistance for Bitcoin. And when you are reaching into the tail resistance and being so extended on a trade and trend basis, when you are going on a high volatility into the key level of this magnitude, you usually get a significant response from it. Plus, very news aligned around Bitcoin with the ETF and all of that. And what you did, you exploded on the news into the key level, and that engulfed, completely closed below. And the likelihood that Bitcoin is going to stay in consolidation over the next 1 to 2 to 3 months is very high. Very high. Once again, we do not know what's going to be happening, how long this consolidation will last, or in what shape or in form it will come. This may be something like this, a significant drop higher, lower in price, and then a pickup from there, or just a boring, nowhere type of movement over the couple of months, maybe. I don't know. I just don't know how long it will last. But overall, if you want to be invested in Bitcoin, you want to be capturing and to be preparing to capture the next upswing like this, the next move like this. And it will likely to come a little later this year, this type of movement, when we create some sort of a high low within that region of 40,000 down to maybe $30,000. And then we will pick up cyclically higher from here, maybe into the all-time highs. I would say yes, this is going to happen, but if you're investing, this is what you want to do. This is what you want to capture. You want to capture the next move like this, the next significant upswing in Bitcoin, something like this or something like this. But you have to be patient. You have to wait and be able to wait for this to come. Because on a short-term basis, as I've just outlined, the signal changed negative, essentially, signaling short on a short-term basis, meaning over the next at least 1 week to 1 month, meaning the next 30 days, or in and around 30 days. It is short, and we believe Bitcoin is going to reach 35,000, maybe even 33,000 before it reverses and goes back into the $50,000 region, maybe even higher. So on a short-term basis, Bitcoin is negative. And if you see, let's say tomorrow, or maybe 2 days from now, 3 days, 5 days from now, if you see this kind of movement, meaning Bitcoin is popping back into the $42,000, $43,000, $44,000, you're selling that. No, you're not selling that. Essentially, if you're planning to be playing on the long side, you're just not doing anything. Do not be fooled by these kind of short-term movements, because they are likely to be short-term in nature. And all I'm trying to say here is just wait for the signal to turn positive. We usually, over the past 5 years, we never fail to capture the next initiation, the next origin of a significant up leg on a trending basis. So be careful with that. This is what we're going to do. This is negative on a short-term basis and on a medium-term basis, but positive on a tail basis. All you have to do with the current setup is to have patience. Have patience, patience, patience. That's it. That's all I'm going to say this time. If you want a dollar cost average, that is also fine. If you want to try to buy right now, maybe if it drops lower by even more, or maybe if it drops lower by even more, okay. But if you have access to the signal, if you have access to our signal, I would not be doing that. I would just be patient and wait for the next upswing higher, because look at the history of the signal. The latest signal came right here, just before we shifted and broke this key level and continued higher. Before that, it was at the close of this week, and then you captured this kind of movement. Before that, it was right here. So we usually never fail to capture the beginning of a significant move higher. And if you believe that something like this will happen, or at least something like this will happen, and Bitcoin will reach the previous all-time highs at $70,000, then I can assure you that we're not going to fail in capturing that. We're not going to fail to capture the most of that movement higher. And this is our game. This is our goal this year, is to be able to capture the most of the next major upswing in Bitcoin. This is what we're going to do. And this is how we're managing. So essentially, we are currently, to sum this up, we are out of the market meaning we are not buying Bitcoin, we're not holding anything in Bitcoin, because the signal changed negative, and once it changes positive, well, we will let you know. So this is the outlook. This is the outlook for the next year. This is the outlook for what's more important, the outlook for the next month. Let's see what's going to be happening, what's going to be transpiring in the next month. And if history is any guide, then Bitcoin should behave very nicely this year, especially with the macro backdrop, especially with the type of movements that we are currently seeing in currencies and in US treasuries, in bond markets. Because if you remember, the last signal that we received and the last signal we gave to you, we mentioned gold and how, let's just put this on, why not? And how closely correlated Bitcoin to the gold price. Both of them trading as a monetary inflation hedge, and both of them are very sensitive to the same thing. And gold just shifted into, let me just open the chart back and compare both of these things. Gold is sensitive once again to the dollar and is sensitive to the yields. Bitcoin does the same thing. But Bitcoin, my man, usually does this much faster than gold does and much faster than anything else does. So look at this. On this day, Bitcoin shifted into negative trend territory. You can argue that this was on 22nd of January, but we extrapolated the signal on a trading basis into the trend basis, and we'd say that, well, this most likely, this after this down leg and down move, we said that, well, most likely this is the end of this upswing higher. And what happened in gold right now? Gold is also broke the trend. Let me put this one on. Right now on gold, this is your trend resistance, and gold broke trend on this day. On this day, gold broke trend. And well, they're doing this in sync. They are going in sync. And when gold will start to pick up again, whatever this might happen, however consolidation may be, maybe another couple of months on consolidation period in this area. Same thing is going on right here. And I believe the next catalyst for gold higher will be the ending of the QT policy, of Federal Reserve QT policy. The same thing will be positive for Bitcoin. When the market will get the idea that they are ending the QT, because the problems with the treasury issuance and the amount of treasury issuance, which is most likely this quarter, is going to be light. The projections are going to be light because the second quarter of every year is a very tax receipt heavy quarter, meaning usually US government collects most of its tax receipts in the second quarter of every year. So maybe this QRA will not be as destructive and as bad for the markets. But the next QRA, the extrapolation into the third quarter and the fourth quarter of this year, maybe that's going to be bad. And maybe then they will have to end the QT because they're already talking about this. But this is very important. These dynamics are hugely important. We know that overall, be it gold or be it Bitcoin, we are poised to go higher. There is no denying that at the end of the day, they will have to restart QT and monetize and finance the deficits that they are currently doing. They just don't have anything else to do. This is the way. But the path of getting there may be very volatile. This is why, if you are trading the markets, you have to get the path right. You have to get the timing right. If you think that something was going to happen, if you think Bitcoin is positive on a tail basis, you can enter right now, right here, and just wait for 5 months, 6 months, 7 months, and be able to once again stomach a minus 20, minus 30% move. But we have signal to guide us. We are looking at Bitcoin, we are looking at gold, we are looking at dollar, we are looking at the US yields, we are looking at the US credit, we are looking at everything at the same time, and then all of them will be signaling buy for Bitcoin or buy for gold. We will shift and we will once again send you the signal. This is the idea. But the fact that gold, that once again Bitcoin and gold are very correlated, they're trading on the same catalyst, yes, Bitcoin is much more volatile and more idiosyncratic, and it has its own catalyst in form of halving and just had the catalyst in form of ETF. That's why it went up so fast and so hard. But overall, on a trending basis, from a bigger picture perspective, they are both sensitive to monetary inflation, and they are both sensitive to the same thing. That is why we are getting what we're getting. So this is the update. To sum this up, Bitcoin is positive on a tail basis, and all you have to do is wait out the negativity in the short term and the immediate term. Wait and wait and wait for the signal to turn positive, and aim to capture and prepare for capturing the next movement that will happen higher in Bitcoin. In whatever shape and form this consolidation may come, the likelihood is that we are going to see this type of movement, another repricing higher in Bitcoin. And this is your goal. This is what you want to capture. But wait for the signal. Signal currently is negative on a trade, and negative on a trend basis. And I said that if you will see a pop-up in Bitcoin price, that's usually a sell right now. One thing to note, that just a couple of things. First of all, ETF introduction made Bitcoin even more sensitive to the overall macro picture, and in future it will make it even less and less volatile, meaning once again, do not expect this happening in Bitcoin anymore. Do not expect that Bitcoin is going to be ripping into $150, $200, $30, $300,000. Most likely it's not going to be happening, because the bigger the asset class gets, the less volatile it gets. The more adoption it gets, the less volatile it gets. So be content if you make, let's say, plus 50% to your money at the end of this year. You should be very happy with this. If you play this correctly. If you make plus 100% to your money, you should be very happy with this, because these are the realities. These are what you should expect. These are reasonable expectations. And let's talk about this. The probability of this happening again. I vividly remember the day that we've been calling longs in Bitcoin right here in that time period. We were saying get long, and most likely this was the ultimate low for the previous cycle, and whatever will happen in here, whatever the consolidation will come, this is long, and this move should have happened from here, from this base, but it never did. Because what happened? Something that has never happened in the history of Bitcoin price, in the history of our trading the markets in the latest 100 years. The COVID came through, the pandemic came through, and the outsized response from the markets, which ultimately resulted in what? In monetization of the debt, in more and more monetary inflation, and what Bitcoin did is just history after that. But once again, this is significant. This is volatility that you either have to sit through or be able to avoid. Is there anything else, again, that can happen? That, once again, the same thing as we've been calling right here for consolidation and for continuation higher from here. Right now, we're calling for the same thing, consolidation in that region, and then higher into the all-time highs from here. Be it in the next 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months, we don't know, but this is the outlook. I don't know, maybe the new and a much more significant war will break out in 2024 between China and US, let's say. If that happening, if, let's say, nuclear disaster happens, anything can happen. Absolutely anything can happen. We will have to manage this. Maybe we are incorrect in our assumption that this is what's going to happen over the next couple of months and into the 2024, and this will happen. But ultimately, if we will see a repeat of something like this, whatever the cause may be, that sends the Bitcoin prices lower, that sends the big prices of equities significantly lower, some sort of a very bad black swan event, we will know, right now we know what the reaction of the governments will be. More debt monetization. This is the only way they can save the system, and this is the game we're playing. So this ultimately will be the buy for Bitcoin at the end of the day. So these are our biggest fear, essentially, is less and less volatility and less pronounced moves in Bitcoin. Essentially, you probably will not ever see the parabolic type of movements that we've seen like this or in the previous cycle right here. But it is fine. It's fine. It is okay. We will still be able to capture something like this happening again. This is it. Wait. Be patient and wait for the change in Bitcoin trending signal. That's all I'm going to say today. Thanks for listening.